great to be here. I don't think I've ever been in a room that had every congressman in Alabama in it. Which is pretty cool. And the topic of my talk, and a lot of it's going to be extemporaneous, but is there are no Democrats or Republicans in America. Our state was once decidedly Democratic, and now it's decidedly Republicans. A lot of those Republicans were Democrats, and they became Republicans. The really good Democrats stayed Democrats, despite it all. But the opportunity for Democrats right now should be amazing with three of the top elected officials. Is this? I'm sorry.
Hey, good.
Do I need to do my joke again? Is that all right? Okay. The opportunities for Democrats right now should be amazing, with three of the top elected Republican officials in the state in trouble. Mike Hubbard, a deeply Christian man, was just recently sentenced, or just recently convicted of 12 of 23 indictments by a jury in Lee County, and he'll be sentenced on July 8th. And he's still the victim. He still has shown no remorse, although he's no longer Speaker of the House. So that Robert Bentley, the governor, love Gov, because of his. Oh my gosh, how many of you in this room has listened to those tapes? Bunch of Korean people. My goodness, it's just disgusting. And he lost his 50-year marriage over that. But you see, and by the way, it is funny. I mean, there is a lot of humor in what happened to Robert Bentley, and because it just shows the hypocrisy. Another deeply Christian man who cannot even, well, I can't say keep in his pants, but at least keep his hands where they belong, with a woman who's almost half his age. And so he's in trouble, and by the way, that's not what he's in trouble for. I mean, he's going to be in some serious trouble from breaking the HIPAA laws to a number of other things. The finance department is in shambles, and so there's no telling where that's going to lead to. And then you've got, a repeater, Chief Justice Roy Moore, a deeply Christian man who is full of hate, which Christian and hate kind of, I don't know, my faith, they don't really mix very much. But he's in trouble because he's such a homophobe that he can't stand even to follow the United States Supreme Court's direction. And he keeps giving counter directions to the people who he's supposed to serve. Some of them follow him, most of them kind of ignore him. Everyone knows Roy Moore. And he's suspended right now and may lose his Chief Justice seat for yet another time. Why in the world he was reelected is, to me, one of the great baffling things, but I'll tell you why. What's that?
Straight party voting.
Yeah. Oh, which is, by the way, straight party voting, whether you're a Democrat or Republican, is stupid. All right?
Yeah.
But anyway, Democrats are no closer to a resurgence than they were in 2014 because the state Democratic Party is in disarray thanks to Joe Reed, who controls it. And so, again, we're talking about, we don't have Republicans or Democrats in Alabama. What we do have is the great tradition and legacy of George Wallace. What we do have are populists. That's what we have. Whether they be Republicans or Democrats, they're populists. And populists don't care about policy nearly as much as they care about winning the next election. And so they do that by making us hate somebody other than ourselves. And so whether it be African Americans, or whether it be women, or whether it be immigrants, are members of the LGBTQ community, or Muslims, or poor people. The idea is, I gotta push your hot button. They know those hot buttons, and sadly, too many of us respond to those hot buttons. We'd much rather pick on someone who doesn't look like us than to do what we need to do, and that's move forward in this state into a new place. Donald Trump is doing the same thing in the next state, but Trump will not be president of the United States. With today's demographics and Republicans bound and determined to alienate just about every group but angry white men, a Republican just can't win a national election these days. And sadly, I probably would have wanted a different, there's a Bernie sign in my yard right now. I did support Bernie, but my neighbor across the street has a Trump sign. Now, I live on the south side. There aren't a lot of Trump signs over there. There are a decent amount of Bernie signs. And my Bernie sign is soon to be a Hillary sign. I think it's highly appropriate that the nation's first African-American president will be followed by the nation's first woman president. So get used to it. It's going to be President Hillary Clinton. And thank goodness, and in truth, neither Bernie nor Hillary are nearly as populist as the Republicans are, and especially as Donald Trump is. He is a scary, scary person. But that's fine, that's all that's going to do is the Republicans brought him on themselves with the stuff that they did, and they're going to pay for it. But until we stop responding to the populism built on hate, it's going to continue. They're not going to change. They're still going to come out and tell us immigrants are horrible people, that undocumented people are illegal. A person cannot be illegal any more than I'm an illegal person because I speed in my car. So I guess I'm illegal too. People cannot be illegal. Acts are illegal, but people can't be illegal. And I hate that term, illegal immigrant. And so until we stop responding to that hate, until we stop being controlled by angry white guys, all right? And by the way, an angry white guy can be a woman. An angry white guy can be an African American. An angry white guy is an attitude, and we know that attitude. I'm the same person I was 50 years ago, and I'm not moving 1 inch forward from where it is because it scares the crap out of me. When you start thinking, it gets scary, and you just have to be able to be a thinker. I love being in a room full of thinkers and a room full of scared people, but that's okay. That's what we need in our society today, are people who are thinking and people who are responding. I'll answer some questions if you have any. Someone's got to have a question. What'd they fire you for, Joey?
What'd they fire you for, Joey?
What's that?
When did you get fired?
February of 2015 from the Birmingham News after 34 years. I know I was threatening people and become too involved in my beat. And so I was doing the same journalism I've been doing for 40 years. Sometimes journalism is as Glenn can tell you, journalism is a adversarial kinds of profession. And so you may say to somebody, you know what? If you're going to go with that story, or if you're going to go with that line, then I am going to write a story calling you out on it. That was the threat. And I did become too personally involved in my stuff. I was an editorial writer for 25 years. That's what you do. If you're not passionate about what you're covering, then something's wrong with you. You're going to be a really crappy editorial writer. So that's why, yes.
What you just said there is really fascinating, because one of my critiques about media is that I don't see the host, the people asking the questions, pushing back on the answers they get. Because, I read at a high school level. I can have a decent conversation, I can critically think, but what that person just said blows my mind. Television anchor, will you ask them why the heck they think that? Well, that's great, Mr. Opinion, next crazy thing you can say. So you got fired for saying, what you just told me was a bunch of BS, and I'm gonna say that, and you got fired for that.
That's exactly, I was threatening.
Whoa, so you didn't even tell the truth, you just said, I might have to tell the truth.
Right. That's exactly right.
That's harsh.
Yes.
As we deal with the false equivalency problem in the media, like you were alluding to, where now to make things seem fair, we trot out two people on differing sides of an issue. Doesn't matter how clear the consensus is about the issue, global warming, gun control, advocacy, all these kind of things. The numbers are there, but then we still have to trot out two people that have equal sides of the divide. Would you have any recommendations for people who are speaking on one side of the issue, where the facts are generally in our corner,
Yeah,
or we're talking against somebody who is, who is denying science or denying these types of things when we're dealing with the media?
Yeah, as a journalist, I would not, on climate change, trot out somebody who was a denier. Just wouldn't. You're right, the facts are clear on that. As an advocacy journalist, which is what I am, I don't have to present the other side's view. I need to know it so that my opinion is informed. And listen, I've changed my view on any number of topics, but I don't have to present their side. I present my arguments on my side, then let someone else do that on their side, which is, I guess, okay. But I come to my positions through a lot of study, through a lot of life, and I'm not going to make their argument just to trot out two people on a subject that isn't, that just so that someone can say, and I've gotten this, man, you were biased. I said, yeah, thank goodness you noticed that, otherwise it would have been really screwy. And so people don't understand, a lot of people today don't understand about opinion writing. And so you just have to live with it, with the crowd. Yes, ma'am.
I'm wondering, how many journalists in Alabama have been fired because of their delving into issues? Because I know Bob Lowry, who lives in Auburn, is one of them. So how many more are there?
Well, there's sort of two things going on. One of the things in journalism is that they don't know how to monetize the internet. And so my wife of 34 years, who had a 27-year career at the Birmingham News, was laid off in 2012. And they laid off 60 out of 100 in the newsroom that year because they're cutting expenses. And I have a feeling that had something to do with me because I was at the time the highest paid person in the newsroom when I got fired. The other thing that's happening is there is that, where there was a time where the Birmingham News, the best years of my career in life were as part of the Birmingham News. The worst years of my career were the last 2 years at Alabama Media Group. Horrible, horrible company. But, and you were scared every day. I mean, you just didn't know when the next ball was going to drop. And they've still laying off people. They're still laying off people, and they can hire recent college graduates to go in and write about the bikinis and those what we used to call hay bagel stories. And there's just, it doesn't matter. And so a lot of the more veteran, they've still got some really great journalists there. John Archibald, Kyle Whitmire, Carol Robinson. They are still there, and they're, I'm sure I'm leaving some out. They got some really bad journalists too. And so that's happening, and then they don't want to be as controversial, as they could be on some issues. And it's why media groups like Alabama Political Reporter, are doing a lot of the real hard journalism out there right now. And I know I work for Alabama Political Reporter, and so I put that out there, but my cover would not be convicted today if it weren't for Alabama Political Reporter and the work that they did. And by the way, Johnny Norris back there, good friend of mine, and y'all see, we have this symbiotic relationship where I share everything he does and he shares everything I do. It's all about the internet. But Johnny is a really good columnist who also comes from the left. Yeah. Yes.
I would like to sometime maybe talk to you more about the whole Newhouse question, but for this group, I'll ask you something about it. I've been trying for years, I've been writing about media and trying to get people in this state just to understand who owns the media here and what their history is. And so, since you worked for them for so long, is there anything, you just made the comment about the Alabama Media Group. And
That's Newhouses too.
That's Newhouse too. Maybe you can say something to these people in this room that like to share nothing but AL.com links all day long every day on their Facebook about how that's really, is that a good idea or not? Tell them a little bit of the history of Newhouse.
Well, I mean, the Newhouses were a huge media company. They're privately held, so nobody knows really how much money they make. And I will say that when the sons of S.I. Newhouse took over the newspapers, they have a bunch of newspapers across the nation. They really did put a lot of resources into the newspapers, and that's the period that I came in. I was recruited from the Anniston Star. And I came in, the Newhouses were really putting a lot of resources in the papers. We won the first Pulitzer Prize of any Newhouse newspaper in the history of the Newhouse newspapers when they owned them. And the Birmingham News editorial page was a finalist, which means you're in the top 3 for 2 other Pulitzer Prizes during a 15-year period. Only one other newspaper in editorial writing was a finalist for a Pulitzer Prize more times than the Birmingham News was in that 15-year period. We won in 1991, we were finalists in 1994, we were finalists again in 2006. We had a very good editorial page that they completely dismantled. I was the only editorial writer in the state of the 3 Newhouse newspapers, that's the Huntsville paper and the Mobile paper and the Birmingham News, who was retained after they switched over. All the other ones got laid off. They just had no place for opinion anymore. But the Newhouse newspapers did start winning Pulitzer Prizes after we had won ours. The Birmingham News won another one for Brett Blackledge's great work on the 2-year college system. New Orleans won, Portland Oregonian, all these Newhouse newspapers, they were winning Pulitzer Prizes, and we were finalists, and it was not an unusual thing. And then, about 10 years ago, this transition started toward the internet. And they couldn't figure out how to monetize it, and things got tight, the economy was destroyed by that Obama guy. And so I guess they just weren't making money anymore, and that's when they started transitioning into layoffs. And by the way, the Newhouse sons, S.I. Newhouse's sons, turned it over to the broader, as it goes down, you get a lot of Newhouses down there, and they're all on their billions. And so they really started this new model where they went to publication of their newspapers for a limited number of days a week, 3 here in Birmingham, 3 days a week. I don't know how you call that a daily newspaper. And then they focus everything on the internet. And if you get the newspaper and you read AL.com, you've read everything just about that's been in the newspaper before it comes out. So
So is CNN, Fox News, and MSNBC, are they great journalists or not?
Well, I mean, they've got some great journalists. Fox News now is, I can't get into that. I mean, my biases show, but I mean, like everybody, we call it faux news, right? And MSNBC, I mean, there's some talent on MSNBC that I greatly admire naturally. That's the liberal network, everyone says, even though they have Morning Joe and stuff. And then CNN is more of a, seems to be a straight news kind of organization, but the talking is important. And that's what they feel like gives you, and I'm saying that to them. And we have transitioned ourselves into such a short attention span society that they do those, you know, long form journalism is like becoming a rare thing. And it's why I listen to WBHM all the time, and why read magazines that have stories like GQ and that LoveGov story they had. Ooh. And I like that. And speaking of that story, it is long form. But we have such short attention spans that they're almost forced to talk all the time about things they know nothing about yet because the reporting hasn't been done on it. And I don't know if I answered your question.
CNN used to be good when Ted Turner had it, but they pretty much lost it.
Yeah.
I rarely watch any of those networks. I just don't. Anything else? One more? Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Would you expand on the media and why they continue to give Donald Trump so much publicity?
Well, he's a good story. I mean, he says crazy stuff. and he says outrageous stuff. And I mean, that's just. But I wish he didn't. And he's depending on. He can't raise any money. And so he's depending on the free media to carry me. Another reason why he's going to get clobbered. It's going to be Hillary in a landslide, folks. I mean, it just is going to be. Is what it's going to be. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Y'all heard something like that, like tear someone down and all that? What was the question?
He's a veteran, and he wants to know if the media's ever really taken a close look at the Veterans Administration Hospital here, and I'm sure everywhere else. See, yeah, there have been a lot of stories about the veterans hospitals, but it's, you know, you can't, and this is what we were so good at the Birmingham News, I feel like. We just didn't let anything go. You know, on the editorial page, you know, we won a Pulitzer Prize for tax reform, but we kept writing about tax reform over and over and over again, because that's how you keep it in the public consciousness. You can't just go do one story and then just drop it. But that's the way the media is. If they do those kinds of stories today, that's the way they've transitioned. And it's terrible. It's terrible the way our veterans are treated in this country. Just like it's terrible the way our poor people are treated. And it's terrible the way, you know, undocumented people are treated. And the, you know, gay community and women who are pro-choice. And I mean, it's terrible. And the reason this happened, if y'all haven't read it, Johnny, I got so mad at Johnny because he just wouldn't let up on this. You gotta read this book, Dark Money. You gotta read this book, Dark Money. You gotta read this book, Dark Money. And finally I said, all right, just shut up, I'll read the book. And the more I read it, the deeper in the book I got, the more angry I got. A fabulous book. Every progressive in this room needs to read Dark Money.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And you need to know how it got this way.
Who's the author?
Jane Meyer.
Yeah, you need to know how it got this way, and it is, but you're going to get mad.
Yeah.
So, you know,
What if you're already?
Don't have your gun near you. Make sure your gun's locked in the cabinet.
Let's take one more question and then let Joey go, and we have another speaker following up with Joey.
Anything else? Yes.
I'll make it very quick. In terms of being treated poorly, have you done any work on mental health issues in this state? Our probate judge is so upset by there being nowhere to take people who wind up in the emergency room because they're unstable.
Our mental health system in this state has been dismantled by the GOP. And it's terrible. When I was an editorial writer, we did, one of the areas that I covered was mental health, and we talked about it an awful lot on the editorial page of the Birmingham News. Today, you know, that's just, I think journalism looks at it as, that's just not something that, you know, interests the readers, and so we're not gonna do it. That's a mistake, by the way. We're not supposed to do stuff that just interests the readers. As journalists, we're supposed to feed you crap you don't want to hear. You know, and get mad at the messenger about it, but that's what we as journalists should be doing. And it gets done a little bit, but it does not get done by very much. Glenn and some of the independent journalists in Alabama are doing some of this stuff. And they're doing the best stuff too, by the way. But the mainstream media is all about the clicks. It got to the point at the Birmingham News, and it's still like this, or I call it Alabama Media Group. There's big screens on every floor, and it tells you how many clicks your stories are getting. And so they are very hyper aware of, oh, I did this story and it got, you know, 500,000 clicks, so I need to do another story like that. Outside of football, and I don't know if this is true because I've been separated from them for more than a year and a half now, or about a year and a half. But outside of football, what was the next thing that got the most clicks? Any guesses? Nah. What'd you say? Scandals? No, not scandals. They get a lot of clicks though.
Oh, probate judges or.
Public record. Public record.
No, the bikini pictures from Gulf Shores.
Ah!
And so I assume it's still true, I don't know. But there was a guy who was assigned to Gulf Shores to go take bikini pictures.
It's journalism for you.
True, because they got a lot of clicks. Okay, and real quick.
Real quick, what can we do to get the subject of Medicaid, like you said, stories that people don't want to hear, but.
Needs to be.
It
Now, I've
needs
written
to
a lot
be.
about Medicaid.
We pay the taxes and Alabama won't use.
The reason, everyone says it's Obama, the reason that 300,000 Alabamians can't get health care insurance in the state is because Governor Bentley and the legislature won't expand Medicaid. That it's in place if we would just expand Medicaid, but we don't. So, okay, yeah,
Can I say one thing?
yes.
I read everything you write. I read everything Johnny Norris writes. He's got an excellent guest writer now called J. George.
Yeah.
Female. Almost, not quite as good as you.
Thank you.
Good. Thank y'all so much.